Here's today's headline. Let's declare a pandemic amnesty from The Atlantic. Are you out of your mind? So here it is. The article goes on to say, we need to forgive one another for what we did and said when we were in the dark about COVID. Really? Okay. Were you really in the dark? Now, folks, I have to be very careful about what I say, and I wish I could be just go off about this one, because I was in Melbourne for most of the time dealing with what happened there, and now you're asking to forgive me. So at least thankfully I found many articles about what's going on here. For example, this is the Washington Examiner. Sane heads will prevail. So their headline says it, flying right in the face. There will be no pandemic amnesty, which I am all for. I'm sorry, folks. There's a big difference. And I think within Christian culture, I think we really get this wrong sometimes when we start lambasting on people who say, oh, you need to forgive them. Well, I think that we misunderstand forgiveness versus accountability. You see, those are two different things that most people don't realize. Where it's like, oh, because you're unwilling to just let them go, let them slide on something, you interpret that as unforgiveness. Well, I'm here to tell you that is absolutely not the case. And I'm actually going to cite the Bible. Where in the Bible do we actually see this, where we know there was forgiveness and yet there still had to be accountability? And of course, I'm going to bring up the point about Moses in the desert. Here it is. The Jewish people were complaining. You brought us to this place where we're going to die. We are thirsty. And God said to Moses, speak to that rock and water will come from it. And so here's what happens starting in Numbers 20, verse 11. And Moses lifted up his hand and struck the rock with his staff twice, and water came out abundantly. Moving on to verse 12. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not believe in me to uphold me as holy in the eyes of the people of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this assembly into the land that I have given them. Which means, okay, I'm sure after this whole thing was said and done, Moses was probably very sorrowful for what he did because he directly disobeyed God. And what did God do in this instance? Well, God said, I'll forgive you for that, but nonetheless, you and this generation will not pass into the promised land. Folks, this is exactly what I'm saying today in regards to these politicians, the corporations, the media, anybody who went along with all this. While there were lots of people that were trying to get the truth out, even places like this platform that I'm coming from right now, and I still have to be careful to this day about what happened. I wish I could tell you exactly what happened in Melbourne, because I'm finding out that most people in America had no idea what happened in Melbourne, Australia, and Australia in general for that matter. Nonetheless, we need to be holding these people's feet to the fire, holding them accountable. Because I'm sorry, saying that I didn't know is not good enough. And if you even go back to World War II and the Nuremberg trials, all these guards, their excuse was, I was just following orders. Well, let me tell you, when this whole thing was going on in Melbourne and I saw these politicians and these people doing these inhumane things, I kept citing this, that, you know what? I didn't know, or I was just following orders, is not going to be good enough, because there will be a day you've got humanity within you that should be kicking in. And just because somebody told you that this is what you have to do does not give you a pass for orders that you just followed. It's not good enough in my book. Folks, this is my word for the day. I know this is kind of a hard one today, but just before I move on and just finish this whole thing up, I just want to even just give a different example of something that maybe is a little more relevant to you in this. What about couples that maybe even get divorced? Is it possible that, they down the road, have some sort of remorse? But what ends up happening is that, well, the damage is done. You still are accountable for, whatever happened in that marriage dissolving. Or it could even be parents with children. Maybe a parent or a child did something that would hurt the relationship and cause that to break up. Yes, you can forgive that parent or that child, but it still doesn't negate the damage that was done in that moment. And that's really what I'm trying to get you to understand, is that there really is a difference between forgiveness and accountability. They're two separate things in this. So hopefully this means something to you. Hopefully you understand this and you agree with me on this. So I'd love to hear your comments about this. So until then, I hope to see you guys next time.